My name is Karen Bushimi, and I'm the president and CEO of Detroit Sewn. While I never intended to be on the path that I walk every day, somehow around 25 years ago, I ended up in the world of fashion. I went from writer, photographer, and wardrobe stylist to editor of magazines, to founding a fashion nonprofit, Detroit Garment Group, in 2012. It was because of the nonprofit that I launched my factory, Detroit Sewn, in 2015. I was continuously receiving inquiries from individuals and brands asking where they could go to have apparel produced in the state. At the time, there were almost no options available for full-service cut and sew in Michigan that weren't automotive. So I started a factory. Detroit Sewn began with one client, one job, and one sewer. I didn't even have a cutting table. Since then, we have expanded 4 times, produced apparel, accessories, home goods, pet products, and more for hundreds of customers. We teamed up with 2 auto suppliers and a couple of smaller factories to produce more than 500,000 masks and 75,000 isolation gowns during the PPE crisis. And in the fall of 2021, we launched our own brand of high-quality basics to be a made-in-USA option for retail, private label, corporate branding, and wholesale. The pandemic pointed out the blatant need for a stronger U.S. supply chain. When we received our initial order of masks from our first health system, I contacted my fabric vendor, and he sent the cotton we needed. I purchased the elastic and the nose wires used for the mask. No problem, just a regular day of sourcing and purchasing. But by the time the second order came in, it was a different story. By then, practically every factory in the US was making masks. The supply chain became a thin thread constantly breaking. Sourcing materials felt like the Wild West. No rules, just get whatever you need by any means possible. Raw goods prices were escalating, and big companies with deep pockets were buying up everything they could get their hands on, leaving the smaller factories to panic buy anywhere they could. In one instance, I graciously used the weight of my auto supplier partner to secure isolation gown fabric where I alone could not. The vendor knew they could get more money from big corporations, so they were limiting how much fabric I could buy and extending how long it would take me to get it. Needless to say, I didn't sleep a lot during that time. There was so much pressure to get masks into hospitals. But thanks to my partners and our 2 shifts of workers, we got the job done. Now, the PPE crisis is over, and the majority of hospitals that once depended so much on US-made reusable masks, gowns, and more have gone right back to importing disposables. I liken this phenomenon to giving birth. It's painful, anxiety-inducing, and even chaotic, but once it's over, somehow we forget. Currently, there is another supply chain mess taking place, and it's in the blanks world. Blanks are apparel, accessories, really anything that can be printed on and resold or used for schools, teams, businesses, and events. Starting with the cargo ships floating aimlessly, unable to get to the ports to unload, to the lengthy shipping times and astronomical increases in overseas freight costs, this industry is currently in a state of disarray. Once again, we have been thrust back into manufacturing chaos. Luckily, no one's life is on the line with the blanks crisis, which we are aiming to ease via our line of high-quality basics. Think t-shirts, hoodies, leggings, beanies, and more. We currently have 11 products and are continuously adding to our catalog. We are also branding gear in-house, and by 2024, my goal is to build a US supply chain of fabrics and trims so that 100% of our products start and end in the USA. As we move forward with this line of products, we do so with Industry 4.0 in mind. Automation does exist in apparel manufacturing, but it's incredibly expensive. As a team, we look longingly at videos of automatic hemming machines and other magical machinery that goes at 100 plus times the speed of a standard sewing operation, seeking solace in the fact that most apparel companies in the US can't put out $70,000 either for a singular machine, no matter how incredible. It's only one machine that does one operation. The only way for such automation to make financial sense is if a factory is making the exact same product over and over again, hundreds of thousands of times. In my 6.5 years in business, that type of opportunity is yet to come my way. However, if any of you has such an order, I will not say no. The products we produce are diverse, which is a typical scenario for a cut and sew manufacturer. We've streamlined quite a bit and say no to more than we used to in the beginning when we said yes to everything just to keep money coming in. But it takes a lot of different machinery to make sewn goods, so we find bits of automation where we can. We have a semi-automated trim cutter that cuts narrow goods such as elastic, webbing, and Velcro, as well as a semi-automated machine that applies grommets, snaps, and rivets. We've added trimmers and vacuums to our sewing machines to eliminate trimming threads at the end of a job. I just spent $750 to buy 2 little rollers to attach to a machine for the purpose of attaching t-shirt collars. $750 for 2 little rollers. I thought maybe that would cost me $50. You would think I would know better. However, that $750 investment will make a big difference in how we perform this operation, and it will give us a much better result in a shorter time frame. As a business owner trying to make good decisions for my company, I can't say no to that, especially because most every other part of a garment manufacturing is done the old-fashioned way, a sewing machine and a sewing machine operator. There are a few more semi-automated attachments that I will be investing in this year. Typically, it takes getting a sizable order that would benefit from such a purchase to pull the trigger. We have an order coming in shortly for 500 varsity jackets with welt pockets, somewhat similar to this welt pocket. On the outside, you see a neat rectangle with the pocket underneath it, and it doesn't sound like much of an operation to do, but it's very difficult to do well, and it goes very slow. But there is an attachment that costs over $3,000, thank you very much, that makes quick work of it. And knowing we have to make 1,000 welt pockets, that's the perfect reason to spend on such semi-automation. Our next endeavor will be trying to create our own semi-automated devices. After going through 3D printing training via Project Diamond and watching videos of tool and die shops making parts for their machines using 3D printers, we recently realized that we can design and print sewing templates that make complicated and costly operations easier, quicker, and more precise. I am more than excited for our first attempt, although I'm sure it will take many iterations before we get to a functional template. We will need to create a template for each operation we want to simplify, and then there will need to be one template for each operation for each size of garment, as these areas grow or shrink depending on their size. While it is a big endeavor, we predict these templates, once mastered, will make a big difference in costing competitively and speeding up our turnaround times. Before I end, I want to talk for a moment about Project Diamond. I was overjoyed when I found out Detroit Sewn had been selected as a grant recipient for a Markforged Mark II 3D printer. I knew absolutely nothing about 3D printing and was still trying to conceptualize how there could be a printer large enough to print out a house. I felt a rush of excitement, imagining how one 3D desktop printer was going to become such a valuable source of income once we came up with our $1 million idea of the item we are going to produce for big money. Again, clearly no real idea about 3D printing. But I went through the training and I became familiar with our printer. And even though today we still haven't come up with that $1 million idea, that didn't matter when we got the recent call for the Project Diamond Network to begin an emergency print job of tourniquet clips for Ukraine. To have the tools and the knowledge and the network and the caring to be able to activate in this way for such important work is beyond gratifying. To actually do something, to make a difference, That meant more than I can possibly say. I am so proud of Project Diamond and so looking forward to who we're able to help next. Thank you.